Today's selection is I Am Redeemed.
oracles of the UCI, beginning at 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as become saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear, than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you up on earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame, and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. First of all, I want to apologize. Some of the people on the internet have been sending like emails and things like that. We have kind of been behind on answering things and dealing with that. We went on our little camping trip, and it was marvelous, by the way. We had a very, very good time. But we were supposedly not supposed to have any devices anyway, but I was playing music, so wasn't answering any emails and stuff like that. But so we're a little bit behind on that, but for all our members that send those emails and stuff like that, we will get back to those things here very shortly. Now, during the life of Daniel the prophet, it was proclaimed that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoso falleth not down and worship shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. This was the law of the land, a law that Daniel just could not follow, because this law would then violate the law of his Elohim against the worshiping of idols. It is suggested that we obey the law of the land, but any law that goes against the culture of Yahweh, my Elohim, is indeed no law at all. We're going to begin today's sermon in Deuteronomy chapter 31. Deuteronomy chapter 31, and we're going to start that at verse 1. Now, in this land, there is supposed to be a protection between what one does in his secular life from what you do in your religious observance. They call it a separation between church and state. But what they have implemented is a very slick, crafty way to merge those things together, but by your own doing. So most of the churches have agreed to a 501c3 thing, which there's some things that we're going to get into because, we want to do some things as far as going out and helping the public and things of that nature. But this is where it starts to get interesting in the daughter of Babylon. To be able to do some of those things on a certain level, you end up having to make this agreement. This agreement then blurs or basically erases the line that exists between church and state. And in that way, you are then at the mercy of the government in your so-called religious observance. I don't know how many people were watching the news this week. They've talked about this particular thing off and on. There is this thing, they said it comes from, well, let me say the way they said it. It's a lot of Cubans do it. It is Centuria something. I don't know. Don't quote me. But they sacrificing chickens and all kind of animals, and they're leaving them on the railroad tracks. And they're saying that how it's really dangerous when the train comes through. It, of course, cracks the bones and sends flying projectiles inside. So, you can get hit with a dead chicken bone. You know what I'm saying? You can just, get hit with, the leftover sacrifice. So they sacrificing, leaving it on the train track. Everybody it's so funny that what happens when you get into this word, what things you listen to. And I don't, if you just stay in the word, your hearing is going to get so much better, because what's going to happen is you're going to learn to weed through the noise and the things that are there for drama, and you're going to hear the meat very quick. Now, the rest of the story was going into all of these things of just how bad it was, and everybody's talking about how foul it was. Here's the part, the very little underlying thing that most people didn't pay attention to. Said, well, it is their religious observance, so it's not illegal. What? They can sacrifice chickens on the railroad track? They didn't sign that agreement. That 501c3 tax exempt agreement. They didn't sign the agreement. See, every church on this corner, they can do all these things. They say, oh, I pass by churches where they got a line out where they're feeding the poor. And everybody say, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. Right. But guess why them people can stand out there on that train track and act a plumb monkey fool, sacrificing chickens and all other kind of animals. Now, I told you the part where they said it came from Cubans. Later on, they say, yeah, but it originated in Africa. If you look at pretty much anything these people do, go back far enough, all of it comes from Africa. Every last bit of it. So there was one part where the lady was like, she had to run them out of the cemetery because they were popping open the caskets, trying to get the bones out of it to do some of their rituals. And they would call the police, and the police start saying, well, there's there's only so much we can do. Because it's a religion. I don't think people understand the power of paperwork. If we was to try to go and say, well, we want to do, we want to do some great giving, and we sign that piece of paper, we can no longer talk about what we want to talk about. We can no longer teach the things that are in this book. You think it's a coincidence that you are of this age, you are an adult, but yet the things that we're talking about, you were going to church 20 years before and you ain't never heard it? Why? Because they signed that agreement. And they couldn't teach it if they wanted to. So if you don't think that little agreement means something, go out on them railroad tracks and look at them dead animals that's sitting over there, and they still can't lock them people up. I tell you, that's what that piece of paper means. You might want to keep that in your head. As we start talking about things, a lot of times people like to throw out the term, the law of the land, when it gets to something that they don't like. And the government mandates something. So they say, let's go with whatever the government mandates. Let's stay with that law of the land. But the land that was given to us was Israel. And the law that was given to us came from Yahweh, our Elohim. That is the law that ultimately governs us. And we can't wait until we get in the land to start trying to figure it out. Deuteronomy chapter 31, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Moshe went and spake these words unto all Israel. And he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. I can no more go out and come in. Also Yahweh has said unto me, you shall not go over this Jordan. Yahweh your Elohim, he will go over before you, and he will destroy these nations from before you, and you shall possess them. And Yahshua, he shall go over before you, as Yahweh has said. And Yahweh shall do unto them as he did to Sihon and to Og, kings of the Amorites, and unto the land of them, whom he destroyed. And Yahweh shall give them up before your face, that you may do unto them according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For Yahweh your Elohim, he it is that goes before you. He will not fail you, nor forsake you.
You know, thinking about that same thing about giving and whatnot and signing that piece of paper. We had, when me and Kish went to teach in the prison in Kentucky, we ended up getting this call, man, and they said they was referred us from somebody in Washington, D.C. And me and Kish like, we don't know nobody in Washington, D.C. He said, you know somebody in Washington? I don't know nobody in Washington. Yet they were sending us there. They wanted us to go to Denver and teach the chaplains over the prison system. But sooner or later, they handed me, and they said, oh, and Mr. Israel, we're going to pay you for every bit of it. Don't get it twisted. Those people that's making those trips and they're going to teach in the prisons, they're not doing that for free. They're getting paid to do that. So then they threw a little, couple dollars at us for doing it. And then say, yeah, you can keep doing this. All you got to do is sign right here. They never saw me and Kish again. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 7. And Moshe called unto Yahshua, and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of a good courage, for you must go with this people unto the land which Yahweh hath sworn unto their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. And Yahweh, he it is that does go before you. He will be with you. He will not fail you, neither forsake you. Fear not, neither be dismayed. And Moshe wrote this law and delivered it unto the priests, the sons of Levi, which bear the ark of the covenant of Yah, and unto all the elders of Israel.
And looking at this, you get the picture where you have to just believe that Yahweh has your back and he's going to take care of you even when things just does not seem like it's in your favor. You have to see Moshe saying, I am 120 years old. Yahweh has changed his life multiple times. 40 years in this place, 40 years in that place, 40 years as a fugitive. Then to go through all of this to bring these people out. Then for Yahweh to say, you're not going to go over with them. That has got to be some of the most heartbreaking stuff. Who wants to work for 120 years and never get the check? He did the most work ever. Whole time they trying to kill him. Every time something don't work out, they want to stone him. 1 minute they say they love him, but as soon as he does something that they don't like, they picking up rocks. They saying, great you are, but you know what? We're going to kill you next Tuesday. And going through all of this. Yeah, but you're not going to take them over. What? You know how heartbreaking that's got to be? If we work 2 weeks and don't get our check, we pissed. We all up in the office dancing on the desk. We don't put our Sammy Davis tap shoes on, boy. We getting it. Where is my money? Imagine doing this labor. And your biggest prize is to see that land. He said, no, you're not going to see it. And then they even make it just sting a little bit more. He tells him it's because he's done some things that wasn't quite right. Which ultimately, Yahweh was already working on something else for Moshe. That was greater than seeing the land. No. I'm going to show you the land that is mimicked after. I'm going to show you something better than that. But you don't know that yet. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse 10. And Moshe commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, in the Feast of Tabernacles, when all Israel is come to appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he shall choose, you shall read this law before all Israel in their hearing.
So, understanding this is something, even when we have small misunderstandings and things in the law, the way that Yahweh has this thing set up, we would be educated about the law constantly. Because here at during the Feast of Tabernacles, in that 7th year, in that year of release, there is then a reading of this law. You have to think about how much time that would have taken. I mean, this ain't no, easy read here. We're talking about, and I don't know if they went through the full things, all of it, but if you go through just Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, you've been reading, Jack. And they got to do that within the Feast of Tabernacles. Feast of Tabernacles is what, 8 days? And here it is, we get to complaining if we got this and that. Imagine having to read the whole law and you got a week to do it. And everybody got to do it. Your kids got to stand there while it's going on. Look, we're a couple minutes in class. A couple of them kids over there can't sit still now. You know how hard it's got to be to sit through the reading of the law? Go ahead.
Verse 12. Gather the people together, men and women and children, and your stranger that is within your gates, that they may hear, and that they may learn, and fear Yahweh your Elohim, and observe to do all the words of this law. And that their children, which have not known anything, may hear and learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim, as long as you live in the land, whether you go over Jordan to possess it.
Right. So the children which have not known anything, they may hear and learn to fear. Fear is a learned thing. You learn it as you go. You learn what not to do. You learn, if I do this, this happens. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, behold, your days approach that you must die. Call Yahshua and present yourselves in the tabernacle of the congregation, that I may give him a charge. And Moshe and Yahshua went and presented themselves in the tabernacle of the congregation. And Yahweh appeared in the tabernacle in a pillar of a cloud. And the pillar of the cloud stood over the door of the tabernacle.
So Yahweh knows his people. He knows that there would be an all-out fight at the death of Moshe if he doesn't go ahead and establish who the next leader is. Oh, Yahweh knew his people. All right, now, so he's covering it. All right, now you go tell Joshua what to do. And let me go ahead and make a spectacle, because I know these people. They tested Moshe. You know they was going to test Joshua if they didn't have some kind of belief All right, he is the one that was chosen by Yahweh. Other than that, hey, they was already ready to revolt when Miriam got to talking. And Yahweh just nipped it in the bud. You got Korah and all of them. Those were pretty big splits. All Israel got to hear is somebody saying something nice. Understand, Moshe is executing righteous judgment. That means some of the stuff he's saying don't sound nice. That's all you got to do to make Jake pick somebody else. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Behold, you shall sleep with your fathers, and this people will rise up and go a-whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I'll forsake them, and I'll hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured. And many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, Are not these evils come upon us, because our Elohim is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day for all the evils which they shall have wrought, in that they are turned unto other gods.
Right, and do we ever consider that we have turned all our attention unto other gods, that we've turned all of our, given our best time, our best ability to other gods, and then when Yahweh turns away from us and things start happening, then we want to know why. We can't figure out why. Go ahead.
Now therefore write you this song for you, and teach it the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. For when I shall have brought them into the land which I swear unto their fathers, that flows with milk and honey, and they shall have eaten and filled themselves, and waxen fat, then will they turn unto other gods, and serve them, and provoke me, and break my covenant.
He says, when they have eaten and have filled themselves. See, it's when we think we got everything we want. This is when we turn the worst. This is just us in general. So while we're in the process of having all these Israelite pep rallies, understand the qualities and the things of Israel and how we act, so that it's not a surprise to you. Yahweh said, no, I know these people. And he's breaking that down not by, okay, this tribe or that. No. He's saying Israel as a whole. Do we ever think about maybe that's why we don't have all the things that we want? Because he said, when I give it to you, you're going to turn completely degenerate. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And it shall come to pass, when many evils and troubles are befallen them, that this song shall testify against them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed. For I know their imagination, which they go about, even now, before I have brought them into the land which I swear. Moshe therefore wrote this song the same day, and taught it the children of Israel.
Now, you see how Yahweh operates in even doing things in the manner of song. And this is just something that you can see by that is very, very strong in our people. Just the ability to deal with things through song. This was in us from day one. This was in us. This Yahweh put this in us. He said, I know how to make them think about it. Make a song about it. Go ahead.
And he gave Yahshua the son of Nun a charge, and said, Be strong and of a good courage, for you shall bring the children of Israel into the land which I swear unto them, and I'll be with you. And it came to pass, when Moshe had made an end of writing the words of this law in a book, until they were finished, that Moshe commanded the Levites, which bear the ark of the covenant of Yah, saying, Take this book of the law, and put it in the side of the ark of the covenant of Yahweh your Elohim, that it may be there for a witness against you. For I know your rebellion and your stiff neck.
Right. Stiff neck is stubbornness. Stiff neck is no matter what I show you, you still gonna do whatever you want to do. No matter what I say to you, you still gonna do whatever it is you want to do. That's what stiff neck is. Stiff neck Yahweh's trying to get your attention over here, and you just, I ain't turning. You see Yahweh over here. Hello? Hey, look, let me offer you a better way. I ain't gonna turn. Go ahead.
Behold, while I am yet alive with you this day, you have been rebellious against Yahweh, and how much more after my death. Gather unto me all the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their ears, and call heaven and earth to record against them. For I know that after my death you will utterly corrupt yourselves.
After my death, you will utterly corrupt yourselves. The whole time he's going back and forth, having to stand in the breach for him, dealing with all of these things. But he says, I know for a fact after I die, y'all finna go off into some mess. And if you read the book of Judges, it is completely that the entire time. Every time there is a deliverer, Israel acts the way we're supposed to act. As soon as that individual dies, we go off into something else. Go ahead.
And turn aside from the way which I have commanded you. And evil will befall you in the latter days, because you will do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger through the work of your hands.
All right. I want you to read this definition. If you look at several things, we saw Yahshua, and there are several definitions there, and I should have put that third one there as well, because that third one is actually Hoshea, and you have to wonder if they are Yahweh and just Israel in general. We are just very good with giving nicknames. So first, let's go into the first definition for Yahshua. Read that one.
From H3091, Yehoshua. From H3068 and H3467.
Right, and you know you're dealing with some this Gentile understanding, because they will still put Jehovah in there, which is how they get Jehovah is instead of YHWH, they will put YHVH, and then they try to put the sound in between those. That's how they come up with first Jehovah, and then they came up with their Jehovah, because we know there was no J until after 1630. So we already know that. Matter of fact, the little blue Jehovah's Witness book that we got, that they stopped printing because they realized that it was Hebrews in town that could bust them up on that lie. So they stopped printing it. But they still got those books, and you can buy them on the internet, where the Jehovah's Witness book has Yahweh, Yahshua, Yermiah, all of those names in it. You will not find those books. Matter of fact, I done told people, if you pull that book out in front of Jehovah's Witness, hold it tight. They will try to snatch your book and run off your front porch with it. Go ahead, brother.
I got into a conversation with somebody about that, with their concern about Jehovah. And I said to them, when you say hallelujah, you say hallelujah. You don't say hallelujah.
Right.
Hallelujah. So there's a difference in that name.
Right. And what they're trying to do, if you start looking at it, they're trying to give at that point pronunciation. And that is one of the most difficult things to deal with, because even within this country, we say the same word completely different ways depending on what region of this country you're from. Matter of fact, if you hear people talk, you can tell what part of the country they're from, and they're still in the same country. The person on the West Coast don't talk the same way a person in the South, and a person in the South don't talk the same way as a person in the Midwest or in the East Coast. All of those people will say the same word, completely different. All of these other things are trying to get into pronunciation, and different people are going to pronounce things different ways. And that's why I told when I had a conversation with one of those IUIC dudes, I told him, when we're dealing with the different forms of Yah, I don't go at anybody if they say Yahweh. One says Yahuwah. You know the one thing I hear in there? Yah. I don't deal with the rest of that, because it's a bunch of discussion about nothing. I hear Yah. Psalm 68 says he is extolled by his name Yah. The angels say hallelujah. I said, what problem does your organization have with that? So the angels wrong too? He just looked at me. Apparently they didn't cover that. He didn't have an answer for that. But I'm sure they'll have one next time. He'll put it up in the meeting and they'll have an official answer. There'll be an official purple answer for what happened when you say, okay, well, the angels say hallelujah. Answer that. Because they don't like Yah. They want to still deal with Jehovah and Jesus. See? Go ahead.
Yeshua, Yahweh saved. Yehoshua, that is Joshua, the Jewish leader. Yehoshua,
now, when you got Joshua, then you see that the real English form of that would have been Joshua if they were actually trying to so-called translate that. But we know that names don't translate. Now, at the bottom there, it says compare H1954, and that one is Hoshea. Which when you look at that definition, it's just a little bit different. But understanding who Hoshea was to be, then read the next definition of Joshua.
H3442, Yehoshua.
Read that again.
Yahshua, pardon.
Yahshua. So, here's the thing about looking up definitions. If you don't go to all three of them, somebody will give you one and tell you that you are wrong. You need to know, wait a minute, keep going. So now we can get to the one that we use. But if you let somebody just go to that one, where it really should be pronounced Yehoshua. He said, well, hold on now. Let's keep going. But if you don't keep going, you're going to end up being dropped off by the wayside and think that you're wrong. And then now they have given you some kind of low self-esteem about the things that you believe in. Keep reading. Go ahead.
Yahshua, for H3091, he will save. Yeshua, or Jeshua, the name of two Israelites, also of a place in Palestine.
So now we see when it says he will save, we got Savior in that, so you understand why it was more fitting for his name to be Yahshua than Hoshea. So now let's keep going. Start that at Deuteronomy 31 and verse 30.
And Moshe spake in the ears of all the congregation of Israel the words of this song until they were ended. Give ear, O you heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew.
And when you get down to what separates, what causes the issues, is going to be doctrine. See, all of the people who can just have an Israelite party, they can just talk about that we are Israel, go and tell all the black people that they Israel. The one thing you don't have to deal with in that is doctrine. So there's never an altercation that's going to come up because all you're doing is telling the people that they are Israel. But then there's a step after that. Okay, so after you're Israel, what do you do? What does that mean? How do you govern yourself? What does an Israelite do? So you got to get past that. But you'll see that there's doctrine that has to come into play at some point. We can't just constantly have this Israelite party that we are Israel. We got to move to the next thing, and that is finding out what is supposed to govern us. How does Yahweh look at us? How does Yahweh look and differentiate between an Israelite and a Negro? And it's more than what you look like. Yahweh said, I don't look at men the way y'all look at men. When they got ready to pick the king, the last one they were looking at was David. Now, he a little short, pretty boy. No, we want the, big, tall, warrior looking dude. Yahweh was like, I have not chosen him. Keep going. Didn't he want to talk about David? Hey, man, is this all your sons? Well, I mean, there's another one, but he out there with the sheep. Well, bring him. Well, not he a little pretty one to be playing the harp and stuff. Go get him. I will not leave until you bring him. Come to figure out, that was him. He said, but the little dude to be writing poetry and stuff? Him? He gonna be the king? Yes. He said, but look, you see my firstborn son? Did you see the muscles on that guy? I'm not interested. That's the one I want right there. Yahweh don't look at men like everybody else look at men. Go ahead.
As the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of Yah. Ascribe you greatness unto our Elohim.
Because I will publish the name of Yahweh, which is the very thing that the imposters are telling you that you cannot do. Why? Because they want to take away your power. If you don't pray in the name of Yahweh, you don't publish the name of Yahweh, you are now stepping away from your power. That then gives your enemies power because you won't stand in it. The Torah says one thing about publishing the name of Yah. The Talmud says something else. The Jewish cannot prove themselves through the Torah, so they have to use the Talmud. And check that out. If I had signed that piece of paper, I couldn't even just say that right now. Because see, they got laws on the book saying that you can't even say Jewish and conspiracy theory in the same voice. You say that in the same sentence. Oh man, you're anti-Semitic. Now all these things are going to happen to you. But that's implementable because of that piece of paper. Once you sign it. Go ahead.
Wasn't it just last week one of them other cabinet members had to resign just because he said something about the Jewish protect or cover their own?
Hey, you all it takes is the one wrong sentence and you out. Remember the CNN guy who got fired? Because he messed around and said something about Palestine? They have tried to poison everybody against Palestine. The black guy said something good about Palestine and talk about how Israel was doing them. Oh man, out of a job immediately. Same thing they did to Jimmy Carter. He starts saying good things about Palestine, saying, man, what Israel is doing to Palestine is absolutely horrible. Oh man, they demonized him. And if you got enough power to demonize an ex-president, that should tell you the power that these people hold. That should not even be possible for you to be able to demonize a ex-president in that way. So we have to really reevaluate in our mind dealing with the law of the land, because these laws are being passed for, and have been for a long time. They're being passed to help companies, to help whatever people want to implement, and if they got enough money, they can implement anything they want to implement. It's law. If you don't pay your insurance, you lose your license. So now I can't even drive my mama car? What kind of law is that? That's a law that helped the insurance company. But that is a legal thing. Don't pay your insurance and see what happens. You're going to lose your license. How does that help you? How does that help anybody in this land that your license is now taken away from you because you hit hard times and couldn't pay your insurance? You have to close that insurance on your own. If you let them close it for non-payment, you'll get pulled over one day and figure out, what are you talking about? I'm driving on suspended license. Oh, you going downtown? What? I'm gonna go to jail? Yeah. Because they cancel your license when you didn't pay that insurance. And nobody tells you. Nobody tells you anything. So your license could be gone for like a year and a half. And you just riding. You just going places. You just happy. To that day, that little light, whoop, whoop, whoop. And they pulled it up by the tag. So they already know when they ask you that crazy question. Let me see your license. Oh, here it is. Oh, you actually got one? Yeah, I got one. Well, I hope you know it's suspended. What do you mean? He already knew that when he pulled you over. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 4. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment. A Elohim of truth and without lawlessness. Just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus requite Yahweh, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he your father that has brought you? Has he not made you and established you? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell you.
So when we get into situations where we have questions, do we ask our elders, people who have been in the word longer than us? A lot of times what we do is go around and ask our friends, and they know even less than you do. What are you asking them for? They've been in the word 14 minutes. Go ahead.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him, he kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirs up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreads abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. So Yahweh alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs, and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the fat of kidneys of wheat. And you did drink the pure blood of the grape. But Yeshurun waxed fat and kicked. You are waxen fat. You are grown thick. You are covered with fatness. Then he forsake Elohim which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation.
Right. As soon as we wax fat, as soon as we grew into something productive, then we turn our eyes away from Yahweh. Go ahead.
They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger.
Right. We provoke Yahweh. Yahweh says, I've taken care of you. I've given you substance. But then you go and give your chief time to other gods. It provoked Yahweh to jealousy. He said, oh, no, that's going to have to be dealt with. Go ahead.
They sacrificed unto devils, not to Elohim, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begat you, you art unmindful, and have forgotten Elohim that formed you.
Right. How do you remember a new God and forgot the one that delivered you? I forgot all the trials and tribulations that Yahweh has brought me through. I've forgotten all of the things of the past, but I remember this new God though. But see, that's us. Go ahead.
And when Yahweh saw it, he abhorred them, because of the provoking of his sons and his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. For they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not Elohim. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. And I'll move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I'll provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn on to the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains.
Right. And Yahweh has moved us to jealousy with a foolish nation that is not even a nation at all. A bunch of mixed people going around calling themselves the Jews. They're a bunch of proselytes, which is fine for people to be proselytes and convert. But when they convert and then say that they are the children of Israel and that you are them, then that's a serious problem. And it's not just one group of people doing that. That is a mixture of different groups of people that are walking around and saying that. I ended up having a job Friday, which I try not to do any things on Friday, but it ends up that some other things happen, and I had to go to this job. You have to kind of watch how Yahweh work. And somehow the guy was calling to make the appointment, and he called one of the voicemails where we had like shalom on it. So Leah called back to make the appointment, and the guy was like, his name was like Saeed, so sounds Muslim. He was like, at the end when he got off the phone, he was like, shalom. Leah was like, shalom. Okay, what just happened right there? So I get there, he already ready to talk. He says, so what are you? What are you? He says, I'm Egyptian. What are you? I said, I'm Hebrew. You're Jewish? I never met a black Jew before. But see, Yahweh said, I'm going to cause the remembrance of you to cease before men. Then we start getting into the conversation. I said, no, you ain't never seen a white Jew. He said, what? He said, what? I said, those people are imposters. Those are not Jews. I said, those people were put there by America and Great Britain so that they can have a foothold in what they call the Middle East. I said, are they straight? It was America and Great Britain that armed them, gave them army, navy, all of that, and then marched right out after they disarmed the Palestinians and they straight annihilated those people. Oh, you know about that? I would like to talk to you. I said, look, I got the word. Is your number? Can I call back that number? Can we talk? I would like to talk to you. I said, boy, it got very interesting. The dude followed me all around his shop, asking me questions here and there. Because he's intrigued. Right down the street on Moore Drive, he said, look, I got to go to pray. I'm going to go over here for an hour. I'll be back. And you look up on Moore Drive, you see all them people walking down the street. Mm-hmm. He's going to the mosque. And he going to pray over there for an hour. And then he come back. And every last one of them, as I'm walking around, they looking at me. I'm in work clothes. But they saw enough culture that everywhere I walk, they all ask me, hey, but one of them was talking to me. He knew absolutely, I'm going to say 2 English words. This is as far, because he was like, I was like, hey, man, hey, bro, look, about 3 o'clock, but I ain't going to be able to make it to the party. I'm telling you now, I don't know what the hell you talking about. So he looking at me thinking, I know, bruh, no, bruh, no. And then he finally said, Muslim? No, Hebrew. And you see the question came up in his head. And he's like, oh. So the guy want me to come back to his shop. It's Muslims all over the shop, everywhere. He like, I want you to come back. I want to talk to you. And you know what? I'm going back. Because where we going back trying to have all of these conversations, everybody trying to learn Hebrew, understand something. Those are the people who are getting mistreated over there. They understand some whole different type things. Rather than trying to get us to deal with one another, I want to talk to him. Because I need you to tell the rest of them who we are. Sometimes things happen that you are not in control of, that you might not even want. I didn't want to do that job Friday. It stretched my day out. But Yahweh got some things that's going to be better for you. It ain't about what you want. I didn't want to do that job. Be like, you going to do this job. My son supposed to be doing it. He couldn't get there. The man was like, look, I got to have it today. So, all right, well, Yahweh want me to go today. Now I know why. You have to give Yahweh room in your life for him to do what he want to do. Otherwise, you're not a servant. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 23. I will heap mischief upon them. I will spend mine arrows upon them. They shall be burnt with hunger and devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them, with the poison of serpents of the dust. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of gray hairs. I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men.
Right. That's why I got Egyptians walking around talking about you're a black Jew. What is that? Because so much time has passed since the children of Israel have gotten expelled from their land. People have gotten accustomed to what they're seeing. That man was amazed when I start talking. He said, whoa. You know that? He wasn't expecting that to come out. He thought I had converted to their ways. I said, oh, no. They wrong. They ain't got no business being there. And he like, I believe that too. Go ahead, bro.
Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and Yahweh has not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000, and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them, and Yahweh had shut them up? For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom, and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons, and the cruel venom of asp. Is not this laid up in store with me, and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongs vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste.
Right. To me belongs vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time. See, because things are not dealt with speedily, people believe that they've gotten away with it. And Yahweh will pause. He's never running out of time. He's never running out of time. So whatever happens, he's not the one that's going to have a problem. We're the one that's got a clock ticking. He ain't got no clock ticking. And just because you don't remember the dirt that you did, don't mean nothing to him. You planted that dirt gonna grow. He gonna hand you that dirt right back. Don't matter if that 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later. Here go that dirt you planted. What? What is this? This all that stuff you put off in the earth. Here you go. You get that back. Go ahead.
Verse 36. For Yahweh shall judge his people, and repent himself for his servants, when he sees that their power is gone, and there's none shut up or left. And he shall say, where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices, and drank the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise up and help you, and be your protection.
Right. Them who you gave all your chief time to, where they at? You call to me when things go wrong. Where they at? Let them save you. Go ahead.
See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering sword, and mine hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies, and will reward them that hate me. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. Rejoice, O you nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. And Moshe came and spake all the words of this song in the ears of the people, he and Hoshea the son of Nun.
Right. Now you see the other part of that name. Not Joshua, Hoshea. And if you look, this is quite a long song. This song right here take a minute. But Yahweh had a lot to say. Yahweh had a lot to say. Go ahead.
And Moshe made an end of speaking all these words to all Israel. And he said unto them, Set your hearts unto all the words which I testify among you this day, which you shall command your children to observe to do, all the words of this law. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. And through this thing you shall prolong your days in the land, whether you go over you to possess it.
Right. So the powers that be want you not to understand Yahweh's law. They want you to not go into this law, because this is the thing that is going to preserve you in the land. This is the thing that's going to get you protection from Yahweh. So they want you to be as far away from this as possible. That's why our people are given these feel-good gospel songs so they can sing, dance, and shout. But you still won't understand anything that is supposed to govern and protect you. You don't even know how to call on Yahweh your Elohim. This is what the enemy wants you to be. They want you to stay right there. Just shout and dance. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe that self same day, saying, Get you up into this mountain, Ephraim, onto Mount Nebo.
Right. There's a church right off of Moreland Avenue, where the old drive-in is, called Mount Nebo. Back in the days, our churches used to be named after places in Israel. What's that church Martin Luther King and all of them used to go to? What's that?
Ebenezer.
Ebenezer. We don't even know. Those are all places in Israel. Nash, new life, new beginnings, new this, Star Bright Church, Word Church. Nothing refers back to Israel anymore. You go back, all of those old churches did. They understood more then than we do now. How many people go to Ebenezer and don't even know where the name come from? They think it was Scrooge. Go ahead, bro.
Which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho. And behold the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession. And die in the mount, whether you goeth up, and be gathered unto your people, as Aaron your brother died in Mount Hor, and was gathered unto his people. Because you trespassed against me among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because you sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel. Yet you shall see the land before you, but you shall not go thither onto the land which I give to the children of Israel.
Right. So then if you look at this looks like a very bad situation for Moshe. But then later on, as you start reading, you find out, no one buried Moshe. You find out Moshe went over this mount himself. You find out then that Yahweh had a whole different plan for Moshe than what it appeared to be. So it's like, do you have enough faith to believe that Yahweh has a plan for you that you yourself can't control? This is where we get into the biggest part of our issue. We only want to deal with things that we can control. I can tell you, you're not going to have a whole lot of success with Yahweh. Because there's going to be a whole lot of things you ain't going to be able to control. A whole lot of things you're not going to be able to control. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 15. And Yahweh is not in the business of explaining things before he do them. That's almost like asking permission. And what do you need to ask you for? I've gotten into some of the most confusing things ever and trying to figure out, okay, so why am I standing right here? Then afterwards, if he gave me that beforehand, then that's like him asking me. So can I send you to somewhere? Well, wait a minute. Now, which one is the God if he got to ask me? Yes, you may, Yahweh. What? Somebody go down there and hurt this fool. He done forgot who the God is. I wouldn't even feel right answering that question. So, is this a trick question? You seeketh the quarrel with me. Deuteronomy 15, let's read verses 1 through 15.
At the end of every 7 years, you shall make a release. And this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lends aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called Yahweh's release. Of a stranger you may exact it again, but that which is yours with your brother, your hand shall release.
Right. So then there's a way that we're supposed to deal with things so debt doesn't go on. We don't have to claim bankruptcy in the land. In the 7th year, it's released. See, so in their system, they say, okay, they got some things out of our book. Okay, we're going to have a year release. That's why it's called a chapter 7. You know what I'm saying? Debt consolidation. And we're going to release this debt. They got either chapter 7 to chapter 13 or whatever. So they get this chapter 7 off of this. Okay. Then they say, but you got to apply for it. You got to qualify for it. Yahweh said you already got it. So then understanding that, then we know, you have to think future. Okay, if we're getting near the sabbatical year, the year of release, hey, I'm not going to give no huge loan that somebody can't pay back, and we in year 6. You understand? Because I know that's about to disappear next year. Hey, bro, hey, hold on now. See, there's certain things you need to know. Otherwise, you get yourself in a situation and now you mad. Wait a minute, man. You knew the 7th year was the year of release, right? So what was the problem? Well, I wasn't thinking about that. This is not just a religious book. This is the book of your life. This is how you're going to govern your business in the land. We're going to show up. If we got to go to court, if we have a business dispute, our courtroom going to look like church. Now the question is, are you going to know enough to be able to represent yourself? Go ahead.
Verse 4. Save when there shall be no poor among you, for Yahweh shall greatly bless you in the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives you for an inheritance to possess it. Only you shall carefully hearken unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to observe to do all his commandments, which I command you this day. For Yahweh your Elohim blessed you, as he promised you, and you shall lend unto many nations, but you shall not borrow, and you shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. If there be among you a poor man of one of your brethren within any of your gates, in your land which Yahweh Elohim gives you, you shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother. But you shall open your hand wide unto him, and shall surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wants. Beware that there be not a thought in your wicked heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of release, is at hand, and your eye be evil against your poor brother, and you give him naught, and he cry unto Yahweh against you, and it be sin unto you.
And he cry unto Yahweh against you, and it be sin. He said, well, I ain't going to deal with the year release. Okay. Go ahead.
You shall surely give him, and your heart shall not be grieved when you give unto him, because that for this Yahweh Elohim shall bless you in all your works, and in all that you put your hand unto. For the poor shall never cease out of the land. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall open your hand wide unto your brother, to your poor, and to your needy in your land.
Right. And how the daughter of Babylon has gotten into this. They have passed their little strange laws that could really get you in a bind. There are people who set up, trying to give. They end up setting up a nonprofit organization and then turn around and didn't handle that money according to all of their terms. Them people end up in jail. They went from doing good to doing time. Because they didn't separate that money right. So them people will turn around and say, yeah, to do this, you need to have this paperwork. You turn around and get that paperwork, and now they're controlling you. And you turn around and can't show where you have done everything and have an accounting for every dime. Now you in court trying to help somebody else. See, the daughter of Babylon makes it very difficult sometimes for you to even do right. Go ahead.
You know, it's interesting when you look at verse 3, towards the last part of that, or verse 3 says, of a foreigner you may exact it again, but that which is yours with your brother, your hand shall release, save when there shall be no poor among you. Then verse 11 goes,
there shall always be a poor among you. So there's always going to be poor.
So get that wicked thought out your mind.
Yeah. He take care of that business right away. But see, we've been told on Sunday morning that God wanted everybody to be rich. So then this ain't going to make no sense. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And if your brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto you and serve you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you.
Right. So then we're talking about a Hebrew servant that the most they can serve is 6 years. So when you deal with the stuff that Jacob had to go through, he said, man, I've been with you these 20 years. I serve you 7 years for this daughter, 7 years for that daughter, and then had to serve you for the cattle. And then you done changed my wages 10 times after working for you 20 years. Go ahead.
And when you send him out from you, you shall not let him go away empty. You shall furnish him liberally out of your flock and out of your floor and out of your winepress. Of that wherewith Yahweh Elohim has blessed you, shall you give on to him.
Right. So this is the law that Yahweh is saying must be done. Now, consider, there is no law when Jacob is going through all of these things, right? And then Yahweh also knows that Laban ain't going to do right. So Yahweh makes sure he get tricked out of all that stuff so he can pay Jacob. Then later on, Yahweh said, oh yeah, it's a law. If he been a servant, you need to take care of him. You need to pay him on his way out. He ain't supposed to do but 6 years, yet Jacob did 20. Then Yahweh made sure everything he did, all right, these gonna be your sheep, these be my sheep. Then all those sheep reproduce. Then he said, well, then I want these sheep over here. He said, all right, well, then we'll take those sheep over there, and those will be yours, and I'll take these ones, these striped ones you don't want. Then all those reproduce and those don't. Yahweh made it at the end, I'm going to get everything that he has been robbed of. I'm giving every last bit of it back. No matter how you move around it, no matter how you do it, you want the pretty ones? Take the pretty ones. They ain't going to reproduce. You want these? No matter what kind of way you going to deal with it, it is time for him to go. And according to the law that I ain't told y'all yet, you must liberally furnish your servant when he leaves. So Yahweh made them abide by a law that he hadn't even wrote yet. Go ahead.
I mean, when we came out of the Egyptian captivity, they got paid on their way out.
Right.
And it's going to be the same way coming out of this one.
For all of the things that they had gone through. See, imagine the Egyptians saying, well, I don't see why same thing they saying in this country. People start talking about reparations. I don't see why we should pay them. That was a long time ago. Let's just forget about it. Slavery wasn't that bad. They obviously like it. Look at all that singing he was doing. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 15, and you shall remember that you was a bondman in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh Elohim redeemed you. Therefore I command you this thing today.
All right. Now let's go to Leviticus chapter 25. I mean, when we just read through these and see all of the things that we encounter, think about within the Feast of Tabernacles, going through the entire law. Do you understand how some of us can't sit still for an hour without dozing off? You know how long it would have took to read through this whole law? And that happened every 7 years. I don't know if they had Red Bull back then, but we're going to have to find something. Because reading through the whole law, oh, that ain't no joke. You might want to sleep a couple days before it's time to go and read through that law. Because I guarantee you, there's going to be some long days. Leviticus chapter 25, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto Yah.
So Yahweh has told us about us having a Sabbath. Then he says, even within debt and things like that, there is a year of release in the 7th year. Now he says there is a Sabbath of the land. Go ahead.
6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for Yah. You shall neither sow your field nor prune your vineyard.
So if you're not sowing it, sowing is planting. So you're not attempting to grow anything. You're not pruning, is cutting. So you're trimming so that you can get more growth. All right. So you're not doing any of those things that you would normally do within a planting season. Go ahead.
That which grows of its own accord of your harvest you shall not reap, neither gather the grapes of your vine undressed. For it is a year of rest unto the land. And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, and for your servant, and for your maid, and for your hired servant, and for your stranger that sojourns with you.
So in parts of that can get a little confusing, because it says, okay, you're not reaping it. When you reap it, you go through and pull all of the growth off of it. But then there was a part where even when we went to reap our things, we would not pick the ones that were not fully ripe, and we didn't go back over it again. What Yahweh did was, there are always fruit that will be ready before others on the same tree, on the same vine. So when one set is ready, there's another set that's not. So when the most part was ready, our people would go through, get all of that stuff out of the vineyard. Those ones that weren't ready, you let it stay there. Then a couple weeks later, that stuff is ready. Then you go back. Yahweh said, no, don't go back. Those things I leave for the poor. Let them. So even within those times, the poor could come in your land and eat, but not go and fill up bags. So that means the person could only get as much as they could eat. This way, Yahweh takes away the opportunity for us to merchandise one another. That somebody just going, you know what I'm saying, I'm just going to go, you know, I'm going to Absalom Field. I'm going to go and get all this stuff over here. I ain't going to get none of mine. But I'm going to go, I got bags over here. I got all, man, you seen them apples over there, Absalom? Boy, I got all them apples. No, man, no. You can go over there and eat some apples. What you doing with that bag? What you doing with that bag, bro? Why you going over there in that man field with that bag? Put that bag down. You hungry? Go over there. Get you a couple of apples. You eat. He has provided for his poor brother. But you going to put that bag down. You get hungry tomorrow, you come back over here and get you some apples. But you're going to put that bag down. See, Yahweh has some things designed so that we don't take advantage of one another. So, and if you don't take advantage of one another, you don't end up at the end of the day having a whole bunch of stuff that you got to try and make right. Because he kept blocking you from doing wrong. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And for your cattle and for the beasts that are in your land shall the increase thereof be meat. And you shall number 7 Sabbaths of years unto you.
Now, it says, and for your cattle and for the beasts that are in your land shall all the increase thereof be meat. You ain't gonna stop no animal from eating. I don't care nothing about your year of, don't eat that old crazy horse. It's the year release. Please. You finna eat all that, man. You crazy? This stuff just gonna sit, and y'all just gonna let it sit here? But think about it. It's growing, it dies, and then it falls right back into the earth, into the same place where it grew. Do you understand how much more fertile this land is now becoming because of the rest? Go ahead.
And you shall number 7 Sabbaths of years unto you, 7 times 7 years. And the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto you 49 years. Then shall you cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And you shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof.
Right. So all of this stuff happened in the 7th year anyway, at the end of the year in the Feast of Tabernacles during that time. So then 7 times 7 is 49. So at the end, you are hallowing the 50th year at the end of the 49th, doing it, saying the 7 times 7. Yahweh has an order. Go ahead.
It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession, and you shall return every man unto his family.
Right. You have to consider how many jubilees have passed that we have been still in the various places where we have been scattered as slaves. Jubilee, 50 years. Jubilee, every man must be returned unto his possession. Think about how many jubilees have gone by as we have been scattered. See, that Jubilee trumpet is the trumpet that Yahshua is going to blow. That's why you read in Jeremiah 50 and 51, and it says every man going back to his own land. Because Yahshua going to blow that Jubilee trumpet. It's time everybody go home. There's a point when you can go out, especially back in our days, you can go out to a playground, there's kids from everywhere. Back then we had no trumpet, we had a street light. And when that street light, it don't come on right away. That mug flicker. It was like a warning that we had as children. Pop, 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 pop. Take off, Jack. We gone. Everybody getting on their bike. Light ain't even fully on yet. It blinked about 9-10 times. But pop, pop, pop. You can hear it. Pop, pop, pop. Pop, pop, pop. Pop, pop. Keep flicking. Phew. That light on. That street light come on and your mama stick her head out that door. She just got that look on her face. She don't say nothing right away. She's trying to see if she see a little head moving. And all of us gone in all different directions. Heads bouncing everywhere. That street light came on. Time to be home now. Time to go. That was order. Yahweh got order. All that other stuff is just practice. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 11. A jubilee shall that 58th year be unto you. You shall not sow, neither reap that which grows of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of your vine undressed. For it is the jubilee. It shall be holy unto you. You shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of this jubilee, you shall return every man unto his possession. And if you sell aught unto your neighbor, or buy aught of your neighbor's hand, you shall not oppress one another. According to the number of years after the Jubilee, you shall buy of your neighbor, and according unto the number of years of the fruits, he shall sell unto you.
Right. That means you think about how close it is to this year of release and the Jubilee, and you deal with that accordingly. You can't say, well, I didn't think about the Jubilee when I sold this to you. Well, you didn't take care of your business. This is the law of the land. So consider how we go into business. Go ahead.
According to the number of years after the Jubilee, you shall buy of your neighbor, and according unto the number of years of fruits, he shall sell unto you. According to the multitude of years, you shall increase the price thereof, and according to the fewness of years, you shall diminish the price of it. For according to the number of years of the fruits, does he sell unto you. You shall not therefore oppress one another, but you shall fear your Elohim, for I am Yahweh, your Elohim.
Right. So if you fear Yahweh, your Elohim, then you're not oppressing one another. You're going to deal righteously with one another. That is a part of fearing your Elohim. Fearing your Elohim is not just, I'm going to keep the Sabbath. Fearing your Elohim means you're not going to oppress your brother either. Go ahead.
Wherefore you shall do my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and you shall dwell in the land in safety. And the land shall yield her fruit, and you shall eat your fill, and dwell therein in safety. And if you shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow nor gather in our increase.
This is where the understanding comes on some of the other stuff. Go ahead.
Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years.
Right, the same thing he did with the manna. He brought forth enough that you didn't have to go out on the Sabbath. Go ahead.
And you shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until her fruits come in, you shall eat of the old store. The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, for you are strangers and sojourners with me. And in the land of your possession you shall grant a redemption for the land.
You shall grant a redemption for the land, because at the end of the day, the land belongs to Yahweh. So you can't fully get rid of the land, especially selling it outside of our tribes, because the land is just yours because you are part of Israel. The land belongs to him. This is what I meant when I was saying with all of them in that strange 12 tribes chart, that they basically giving our land away to strangers. Now that ain't gonna work. Go ahead.
If your brother be waxen poor and has sold away some of his possession, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. And if the man have none to redeem it, and himself be able to redeem it, then let him count the years of sale thereof, and restore the overplus unto the man to whom he sold it, that he may return unto his possession. But if he be not able to restore it to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the hand of him that bought it until the year of Jubilee. And in the Jubilee it shall go out, and he shall return unto his possession. And if a man sell a dwelling house in a walled city, then he may redeem it within a whole year after it is sold. Within a full year may he redeem it. And if it be not redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it throughout his generations. It shall not go out in the Jubilee.
Y'all need to highlight verse 30. At least you said somebody con me out my land. You need to understand. And start at verse 29. If a man sell a dwelling house in a walled city, then he may redeem it within a whole year after it is sold. Within a full year may he redeem it. If it be not redeemed in the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it. So what if you don't know nothing about that, and you sell it, and you say, well, I'm going to get it back in the year of Jubilee? I guess you didn't look at where the house was. Then you start looking at them people strange because you didn't read your book. Go ahead, bro.
I'm laughing. It looks like a title pawn.
Hey, bro, this worse than a title pawn if you don't understand what you're doing.
Yep. Got a year to get it back. That is done. Verse 31. But the house of the villages which have no wall round about them shall be counted as the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall go out in the Jubilee. Notwithstanding the cities of the Levites and the houses of the city of their possession, may the Levites redeem at any time.
Right. You may want to know that too if you're dealing with trying to get some property from one of the Levites. Once Yahweh established who the tribes are, you may need to make sure you know that. At least you get your little heart broke. But I had plans. Yeah, but he just came back and said he getting it today. Now you all upset that I was adding on. I was gonna build a deck right here. Hated it. You didn't really read your book. Go ahead.
And if a man purchased of the Levites, then the house that was sold and the city of his possession should go out in the year of Jubilee. For the houses of the cities of the Levites are their possession among the children of Israel. But the field of the suburbs of their cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. And if your brother be waxen poor, and fallen in decay with you, then you shall relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. Take you no interest of him or increase, but fear your Elohim, that your brother may live with you.
Take no interest of him. Go ahead.
You shall not give him your money upon interest, nor lend him your victuals for increase. I am Yahweh your Elohim, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan, and to be your Elohim. And if your brother that dwells by you be waxen poor, and be sold unto you, you shall not compel him to serve as a bondservant.
Right. So then when you look at how the nations deal with labor here, when you look at how the Euro Gentiles deal with things, the hardest part of the labor, we're always the one that's doing that. So they doing right by their people. Yahweh said you ain't supposed to deal with rigor over your brother. Foreigners or strangers are supposed to do the harder work. You don't put that on your brother. So they doing the same thing. Go ahead.
But as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with you, and shall serve you unto the year of Jubilee. And then shall he depart from you, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return. For there are many servants.
They are my servants.
For they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. You shall not rule over them with rigor, but shall fear your Elohim. Both your bondmen and your bondmaids, which you shall have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall you buy bondmen and bondmaids.
Right. So when you see handmaids and things like concubines, those are of foreign people. Those are not of the children of Israel. Those are servants. Go ahead.
Moreover, the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall you buy, and of their families that are with you, which they beget in your land, and they shall be your possession. And you shall take them as inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule one over another with rigor.
Now, verse 46, and you shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you. Leo showed me this picture the other day where there's a white baby being held by an older black girl. The black girl was the gift to the white baby. We were given an inheritance. That when one of them died, they said, well, these slaves go to my daughter. So when this little white child was born, she was given the black girl. This is one of the things that they like to not talk about, where these white women had people that were specifically theirs. Yeah, they got a plantation and the husband owned the plantation, but you see, these slaves is mine right here. These were given to me when my mom and pappy died. These mine right here. So we're talking about children were given gifts of people. You see how Yahweh turned all the stuff around that was actually for your benefit? And then because we would not walk in it, now all of the stuff benefits the other nations. They're doing all the things to us that we were supposed to have power of. This is why those same people want you to constantly be ignorant to your law. Go ahead.
You know, that makes me consider Jacob and Laban.
Mm-hmm.
when he was leaving out with Rachel and Leah, he had two maids that he gave
Yep.
unto them.
Yeah. He said, here go these things, and then you have in certain of those situations you read and you find it was like, well, where is the daughters was talking about, where is our gifts? These things come, this is our land that my father has robbed us of. Right. It's like, give us our inheritance. Give us that stuff. That's our stuff. So, that there's a lot that goes into that, and there's some things that we should pay attention to, because I keep telling people Yahweh is very poetic with how he deals with things. These were the things that were given unto us, but because we didn't walk in it, now other people get to do it to us. Go ahead.
Verse 47. And if a sojourner or stranger wax rich by you, and your brother that dwells by him wax poor, and sell himself unto the stranger or sojourner by you, or to the stock of the stranger's family, after that he is sold, he may be redeemed again. One of his brethren may redeem him. Either his uncle or his uncle's son may redeem him, or any that is near of kin unto him of his family may redeem him. Or if he be able, he may redeem himself. And he shall reckon with him that bought him from the year that he was sold to him unto the year of Jubilee. And the price of his sale shall be according unto the number of years, according to the time of an hired servant shall it be with him. If there be yet many years behind, according unto him, he shall give again the price of his redemption out of the money that he was bought for.
Mm-hmm.
And if there remain but few years unto the year of Jubilee, then he shall count with him, and according unto his years shall he give him again the price of his redemption. And as a yearly hired servant shall he be with him, and the other shall not rule with rigor over him in your sight. And if he be not redeemed in these years, then he shall go out in the year of Jubilee, both he and his children with him.
Mm-hmm.
For unto me the children of Israel are servants. They are my servants, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your Elohim.
Right. So even when you deal with why the children of Israel have gone through slavery, it is because Yahweh says, I created Israel to be my servants. So we either serve Yahweh or we're going to serve the other nations. Simple as that. Those are the only options that are available. And we've already had a whiff of how the nations deal with things. We should never want that situation. So then we have to perfect how we're going to worship Yahweh, our Elohim. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 23. Go ahead, bro.
I was just touching on verse 53 here when it says he should not rule over rigor over him in your sight. Now you can understand Moshe's zeal when he saw what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
There was an Egyptian ruling over his brother with rigor.
Right. And even though he's receiving all the benefits of being in Pharaoh's house. See, we do the exact opposite. If we are getting benefits from living in Pharaoh's house, or we turn a blind eye to what's happening to our brother. See, because we getting something out the deal. See? That's why Yahweh has a law, a system that sometimes basically is orchestrated in a way that it forces us to do right. Because some of us, if you give us the option, we ain't going to do right. We're going to do right when we ain't got no other choice. So Yahweh pushes the thing so that you're pushed into doing right. Leviticus 23, and let's start that at verse 23.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, shall you have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, an holy convocation.
And understand this blowing of trumpets is how Israel was called. This is how we come together to keep our Sabbath. This is how we come together to keep our new moons, our holy feast days. That trumpet blows. We do that to call Yahweh our Elohim when we go to war. There's a lot of things that are included. Even when we look in the parts where it says, and Yahweh spoke, and it sounded as if a trumpet spoke with me. So we have to consider all of that in the trumpet. Go ahead.
You shall do no servile work therein, but you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yah.
All right. Servile work is work that you get paid for. We also have these dates on here so that people are not caught off guard. A lot of times we have things and people like to when is trumpet when is atonement? Oh, it was last week. It was last week. Okay. Pay attention to these dates. We'll keep September 28th at sundown is the Feast of Trumpets. This and this 7th month, there is a lot of things that come. If you look at how Yahweh does his holy days, it starts off with several back to back, got a little in the middle, and then it ends with several things back to back. So there's a lot going on when you deal with trumpets. So then this will be then the new moon, the trumpet, September 28th at sundown. It says in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, so then that's going to be a new moon, shall you have a Sabbath. This is different from any other new moon. Okay, this is not like the other new moons. See, we have a lot of situations where sometimes, people just don't really pay attention to the new moons and things like that. This is even goes above a normal new moon. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement.
So this day of atonement is one of, we're talking about the holiest day here because there's one thing about Passover. Passover is just having your sins passed over. This is where people pay the most attention to. But when you deal with atonement, it is having the wrong set right. There's a reason why that one is toward the end. So a lot of people pay a whole lot of attention to Passover. Yet, atonement is where you're put back in the right place from the sin that you got passed over from. Passover just meant, hey, look, I'm going to protect you. They was what? Covered under the blood. So when the destroyer came, he saw the blood. I ain't going into that house. I'm going to destroy everything else, but I ain't going into that house where I see they covered with the blood of the Lamb. But then there's that part where atonement, where things are made right. That's something altogether different. Go ahead.
It shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto Yah. And you shall do no work in that same day.
Right. Servile work is what it said before. Servile work is work that you get paid for. No work mean no work. Because see, while we're afflicting our souls, while we're fasting, a lot of time we want to do something else to make time go by. So we don't want to think about no food. So we just start doing a whole lot of other stuff. No. Sit down and think. Go ahead.
For it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahweh your Elohim. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that does any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
So you think he meant that? You should not do any work. You should do no work. Just in case there was a little confusion. And once again, we have the date, October 7th at sundown is the Day of Atonement. This is where we are going to fast for 24 hours. So then you prepare yourself leading up to that. I tell people if you're on medication, you deal with that very carefully. You may not be able to go all 24 hours. It is the attempt and all of those things that Yahweh looks at. So pay attention to these dates, because a lot of times we get so busy caught up in the life that we have to provide and do all of these things in the daughter of Babylon that the things of Yahweh end up sneaking up on us. This won't happen in our land because everything is going to be based on this. So this is like, you know, how they do their Christmas here. You're going to have a day off on Christmas whether you like it or not. You ain't going to work on Christmas because ain't nobody going to be there. You're going to take that day. That's why when they give their little days off, I make sure I take every last one of them. If somebody asked me one of these pagan holidays, I couldn't even tell you when it was. So I don't know it like that. I look on the calendar. I said, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, man. Y'all gonna have the whole place shut down this day, ain't you? Oh, good. This day I want to go somewhere. They gonna make me take that day whether I like it or not. See, I got to list my holy days. The heathen don't have to list his holy day. He's gonna be shut down on Christmas. They automatically got that. And if they gotta work, they're getting double time and a half. Go ahead.
You know, the whole thing is, what best time to plan something on the day that you're giving me off that I don't have to take out of my time?
Exactly.
I'm gonna plan and go do something.
Exactly. I already got a plan to get my holy day. And you gonna give me an off day? I'll take an off day for a rat's birthday. It don't make nothing to do with me. I don't care. I ain't got to celebrate the rat. But if you gonna give me a day off for rest, and look, man, it's Chuck E. Cheese day. Well, I'm getting the hell on. I'm out. I'm out. Tell Chuck I said, what's up? I'm out. I'm taking that off day, Jack. Go ahead.
Verse 32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and you shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even.
The 9th day of the month at even is the 10th day. Go ahead.
From even unto even, you shall celebrate your Sabbath.
From even unto even, you shall celebrate your Sabbath. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto Yah.
Right, so we got booths/tabernacles, which begins October 12th at sundown, which is day 1. And then ends October 19th at sundown, which is day 8. And we have things all in between those days. So October 12th through October 19th is going to be a very busy week. Go ahead.
On the first day shall be an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yah. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein.
All right, so now we're back to servile work. Our people had control of our working situations during this time. So I tell people, you do the best that you can. We're still in the daughter of Babylon, and we're still in captivity. You're not going to always be able to get these things. You just do the best you can. When these things were given unto us, we were in control of our own land. There's absolutely nothing. People would be ashamed to try to get you to work on these days. If they found out, you know, folks would be gathering up in front of their business. Are you tripping? Who in here working? We don't have that kind of protection here in the daughter of Babylon. They're going to keep trying to push you. So you just have to do your best when it comes down to these things. Find out which days are Sabbaths and try your best to get those days off. Or work on that cough. Work on that cough. Oh man, don't sound good. Work on that cough. Go ahead, bro.
These are the feasts of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything upon his day. Besides the Sabbaths of Yahweh, and besides your gifts, and beside all your vows, and beside all your freewill offerings, which you give unto Yah, also in the 5th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto Yahweh 7 days. On the 1st day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath.
So then we have a Sabbath starting the feast, and we have a Sabbath ending the feast. So being that those are Sabbath, those are days that we're not supposed to do any servile work. So we have the 12th at sundown, which would mean that the day you need off would be the 13th. Don't know if that's a Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know. I'm just giving you the dates. October 19th at sundown would mean that the Sabbath would be on the 20th. When I first started, I was taking all the wrong days off. I see October 12th, and I get October 12th off. Here go the problem. We don't start till sundown. The day you need off is October 13th. So now I'm just sitting there looking stupid, trying to figure out why everybody just chilling. I'm like, we got to go to work in the morning. They're like, no, brother, you took the wrong day off. Man. Yeah. Done made a couple of those mistakes before. Go ahead, bro.
I think that both of them fall on Saturday.
Both of them, okay. Like I said, I'm not looking at a calendar, just looking at the dates. So just so you understand which days are, Sabbaths. Go ahead.
Verse 40. And you
Appreciate that.
And you shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
And you shall keep it a feast unto Yahweh 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelite born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths, when I brought them up out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. And Moshe declared unto the children of Israel the feast of Yahweh.
All right. Now let's go to Exodus chapter 34. And we will, of course, have our booth set up in here so that every day we come in, we will have those booths set up. Do understand it's a little bit different than what we would be able to do in our own land. And when you talk about all of the things that would actually happen in that land and everybody coming, you would have to dwell in booths to be around this area where all of these things are going to take place. Exodus chapter 34, and we're going to read verses 22 through 35.
Verse 22. And you shall observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end.
Right. So then we're talking about the days, and before that it mentioned Feast of Unleavened Bread. If we back up a little bit, so you got Feast of Unleavened Bread, what we call Pentecost, and then Feast of Ingathering, which is Tabernacles. It is giving the feast in which the appearances of all of the men are done. Go ahead.
3 times in the year shall all your men children appear before the Adonai Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel. For I will cast out the nations before you, and enlarge your borders. Neither shall any man desire your land.
Neither shall any man desire your land. As then we are going up to keep these things, understand, we then leaving all of our stuff. He said, if you do what you're supposed to do, I won't even have it so people won't even desire your land when you leave. Go ahead.
When you shall go up to appear before Yahweh your Elohim 3 times in the year. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, neither shall the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover be left unto the morning.
Now, so that we understand, the lamb that we eat is not our sacrifice. Okay? Yahshua has become our perfect sacrifice. The lamb that we eat on Passover is not our sacrifice. Do not throw out anybody's lamb on Passover. You might end up and find yourself in a feast fight. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I'm gonna let them get a few hits in before I stop it. You know what I'm saying? Because you should have known better before you threw out their lamb. You should have known better. You should have known that wasn't our sacrifice. So when you grab somebody's plate and you throw out their lamb, I'm gonna let him hit you a couple times before I stop it. Go ahead.
The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring unto the house of Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, write you these words, for after the tenor of these words I have made a covenant with you and with Israel. And he was there with Yahweh 40 days and 40 nights.
Mm-hmm.
He did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. And it came to pass, when Moshe came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of testimony in Moshe's hand, when he came down from the mount, that Moshe knew not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him.
Right. That didn't mean nothing to Israel. Israel still tried a man who got a glowing face. Me and the shining dude, we're not going to have no problem. How do you go against somebody who has communed with Yahweh, ain't ate nothing for 40 days, and ain't weak at all, and he come down and his face glowing? Me and that man ain't got no problem. We're not arguing about nothing. What we going to do, sir? Whatever the hell he said. Did you see the man shining? Why are you asking me questions? We going where he said we going. Either you glowing or shut up then. Go ahead.
And when Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moshe, behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him.
See, this is when Israel get afraid. But once the glowing stop, here come our disobedience. Oh, you can only remember as long as he glow? So when the glowing stop, okay, well, the spirit must be gone now. Now we can, disrespect him. Man, Israel, you learn a lot about Israel about reading this book. When you start learning this stuff that happens to you from other individuals, it shouldn't surprise you. This is us. How you look at a glowing dude and still try him? Go ahead.
And Moshe called unto them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned unto him, and Moshe talked with them. And afterward all the children of Israel came near, and he gave them in commandment all that Yahweh had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. Until Moshe had done speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. But when Moshe went in before Yahweh to speak with him, he took the veil off until he came out. And he came out and spake unto the children of Israel that which he was commanded.
So they're like, look, man, we can talk with you, but not while you glowing. So you're going to need to cover that up. We can't deal with that. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel saw the face of Moshe, that the skin of Moshe's face shone. And Moshe put the veil upon his face again until he went in to speak with him.
All right, let's go to our Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 39.
Verse 39. And when they had performed all the things according to the law of the Adonai, they returned into Galilee to their own city, Nazareth. And the child grew and waxed strong in spirit, filled with wisdom, and the grace of Elohim was upon him.
Now the child they're talking about is Yeshua. Go ahead.
Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the customs of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days, as they returned, the child Yeshua tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. But they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him among their kinfolks and acquaintance.
Right, and we know how children are. You walking, they gonna drift back with their friends and do things of this nature. You see that this must have been a very widely understood thing, because all of them are moving together. When it's just you and your family, you don't separate. But when it's everybody walking, your kids gonna jump from here to there, go all over. So they keep walking because they suppose that he's just doing what the rest of the kids do. He's just going from friend to friend. Go ahead.
And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him.
Right, and that's got to be enough to drive you crazy right there, that you can't find your child. That is one of the most heart-wrenching things ever. You looking around, did somebody grab my child? Go ahead.
And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions.
Now this is about that time where you want to whoop a young God's tail. You know what I'm talking about? It's about that time where it's like, you know what, man, I don't want to do it, but I'm about to whoop a God. You know what I'm talking about? I'm about to whoop me a God today. But we've been running around here everywhere looking for you, and you sitting around here talking to people. Yeah, boy, I think I'd have got in trouble with this one right here. I'd have had to answer to Yahweh. Did you whoop my son? I sure did. Go ahead.
And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why have you thus dealt with us? Behold, your father and I have sought you sorrowing.
Right. They probably crying, walking around, can't find their baby. Go ahead.
3 days.
Yes. 3 days, man. Bro, we in the Looney Tune in about 3 days. They done already admitted us. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, How is it that you sought me?
He ain't very, don't feel sorry at all. Go ahead.
Know you not that I must be about my father's business?
You don't even say, Mama, I'm sorry. Dad, I'm sorry. Hey, what you mean you was sick of me? Why you ain't know I must be about my father's business? You know what, I'm about to whoop a God today. You can believe that. Believe that. Good God Almighty. You know they sick. But he taking care of their business. Hey, there's some things here I need to know. I need to talk to the educated people. Let's reason one with another. And you know these people are mesmerized. Who is this little boy? And how is he able to retain this information? How is he able to converse with us? We grown men. Go ahead, brother. Did you finish that?
I'm just going to say, he was 12. Isn't that right around the age where they start smelling themselves?
Yeah, buddy. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Hey, it would have been in this book the first time a God got a whooping. It would have been in this book. It would have been the only time that a God got a whooping. He'd be like, hey, when he was gone 3 days, stop whooping. Go ahead.
And they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these sayings in her heart. And Yahshua increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with Elohim and man.
Right. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. In other words, they watched him closer then. They're like, hey, look here, man. None of this God stuff. It ain't your time. You keep being a little boy. He was subject unto them. They paid attention. That's what situation and circumstances do. It make you step up your level at some point. Let's go to Matthew chapter 21. And this is going to be the last one that we read today. Matthew chapter 21.
Matthew chapter 21 and verse 1. And when they drew near unto Jerusalem and were come to Bethphage, unto the Mount of Olives, then sent Yahshua 2 disciples, saying unto them, Go into the village over against you, and straightway you shall find an ass tied, and a colt with her. Loose them, and bring them unto me. And if any man say aught unto you, you shall say, The Adonai has need of them, and straightway he will send them.
So he sent them to go steal somebody's horse. It's this stuff mine. Go get my stuff. I need it. Now you got to have a certain level of faith to just say, okay, well, hey, you got some paperwork on this horse? I mean, what, you just want me to go get it? Yeah, man, just go. You're going to find it, go untie it, and just go bring both of them here. So if they say something to me, what? So you sure I ain't going to jail? Yeah, just go get it. Go ahead.
All this was done that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, Tell you the daughter of Zion, behold, your king comes unto you, meek, and sitting up on an ass, and a colt the foal of an ass.
Right. You use the beast for what they're for. When you talk about planting and doing all of that, let me tell you something, man. You can put a big metal yoke on the back of one of them animals, and man, they can walk up and down that field all day. I tell you what, you do it. Let's see how long it lasts. Let's see how much of your land you gonna get tilled. And he's fulfilling scripture by doing this. He's not just doing some stuff because he think it's cool to do. Go ahead.
And the disciples went and did as Yahshua commanded them, and brought the ass and the colt, and put on them their clothes, and they set him thereon. And a very great multitude spread their garments in the way, others cut down branches from the trees, and strawed them in the way. And the multitudes that went before and that followed cried, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Adonai. Hosanna in the highest. And when he was coming to Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, Who is this? And the multitude said, This is Yahshua, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. And Yahshua went into the temple of Elohim, and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers, and the seats of them that sold doves.
Right. So when people try to tell you, offer you this loving version of Yahshua where there's no altercation, there's nothing that happens. No, that's Jesus. That's not Yahshua. See, you need to learn the difference. That ain't Yahshua. Yahshua went and turned over tables. He said, oh man, y'all got all this money stuff in here? And let me tell you something, the quickest way to tick somebody off is to turn over their money table. Go over there to World Changers and kick over that ATM and see what happens. Go ahead, y'all, man. Go ahead. Make sure you got your kufi on. Go on over there and kick that ATM over. See what happens. Go ahead.
And said unto them, It is written, My house shall be called the house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves.
Mm-hmm.
And the blind and lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying in the temple, and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased, and said unto him, Heareth you what they say? And Yahshua says unto them, Yea, have you never read, Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings you have perfected praise? And he left them, and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there. Now in the morning, as he returned into the city, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it, and found nothing thereon, but leaves only, and said unto it, Let no fruit grow on you henceforward forever. And presently the fig tree withered away.
Right. How dare this fig tree not produce for its master? The fig tree forgot its purpose. Fig tree thought that it was just something to decorate the land. You forgot that you're supposed to provide for your master? Curse this tree. Go ahead.
And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is the fig tree withered away? Yahshua answered and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, if you have faith, and doubt not, you shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if you shall say unto this mountain, Be you removed, and be you cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things, whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive.
Now, where people take this out of context, they kind of forget who he talking to. He are talking to his believers who are going about to do this job. And you got, people that'll throw a few sayings out, and then they believe all of this applies to them.
Whatever I ask, he gonna give it to me because I asked. I should be able to tell this mountain to move, and it's gonna obey me.
Oh yeah? What work you did? These people changed their whole life to follow him. So you have to be careful when people start throwing out these sayings They kind of forget who this is being said to and what these people have given up. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And when he was come into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came on to him as he was teaching, and said, by what authority do you these things? And who gave you this authority?
Right. They question his authority to be able to do these things. Who are you? See, when people don't see somebody float down out the sky, they don't believe that this is something of Yahweh. They want to see some grand gesture. Let's see the sun turn dark and the moon turn blood red. Then we'll believe that Yahweh did it. Go ahead.
And Yahshua answered and said unto them, I also will ask you one thing, which if you tell me, I in likewise will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of Yohanan, whence was it? From heaven or of men?
Right. Now, this same thing you need to ask those purple people. The same thing that Yahshua asked. The baptism of Yohanan. Where did it come from? Because, see, they got a lot of strange stuff about that baptism. See? You need to ask, because they said Christ is our example. Okay. Well, what the baptism of Yohanan? Where did it come from? Go ahead.
And they reasoned within themselves, saying, we shall say from heaven, he shall say unto us, why did you not believe in him?
So now they rationalizing. They don't want to say left or right. So they don't offer anything. They're rationalizing which way. If I answer this, they're going to say that. If I answer that, they're going to say this over here. Go ahead.
But if we shall say of men, we fear the people, for all hold Yohanan as a prophet. And they answered Yahshua and said, we cannot tell. And he said unto them, neither tell I you by what authority I do these things.
Right. Since you can't answer, I ain't going to answer either. Learn how Yahshua deal with some things, because sometimes you're going to have to deal with some things the same way. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.